Right. Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. I have no members of the public, and we have no apologies, which is nice. Thank you. Do we have any declarations of interest? No. Chairman's report and urgent items. I don't have anything. Do we have any urgent items?
No, nothing, Chair.
Splendid. Do we have any public questions in accordance with Standing Order 22?
None received.
Then we go straight to the minutes of the last Community Services meeting. Can we take those as a correct record? Lovely, thanks very much. And the next one is Christmas Carnival Working Party meeting from 19th of August and the 23rd of September. And we take those as correct record? Yes. Splendid, thank you.
Just the back to Sprinson.
Thank you. Did I miss one?
Yeah, I think so.
Must have done. Yes, it is, quite right. Yes, thank you. So now we're all right with the Remembrance Day Working Party.
Yep.
Fine?
Yes, fine. Yes, as well.
Thank you very much. So we'll go straight to the officers' reports. Page 23, the forward plan and resolution tracker. So this one we're asked to note and approve. If anybody does have any comments or amendments, we're looking at Appendix A first. Does anybody have a comment on that? Yes, Councillor Prison.
Thank you. I would like to ask, I made this question before, but I'm still not 100% clear on what means consider plans for redesign of the Century Garden. Does that mean we are all invited to start from scratch, or does that mean we get presented with a plan?
I would say usually get presented with a plan.
Yeah, so what would normally happen for projects such as that is we would bring a series of options to committee or to council, whoever's considering it, for that to be discussed and decided upon.
Is there any way to get any input in advance? Because I have particular ideas that I would like to bring to the table.
Right.
Yeah, so Chair, this particular item, I mean, there's a note to make on the forward plan. Council on the 25th, next Monday, will be considering a report on the business plan, which will, if approved, will have an impact on the forward plan because there'll be some items that come into your committee. The reason I say that is that one of them will be around the public realm improvements, which is a priority set out in the new business plan. So as part of that, we are going to bring a draft action plan to this committee, and that would be an opportunity for this committee to put forward initial ideas before things are scoped out.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so Monday. Thank you.
Splendid. Any other comments? Yes.
Just a quick one. It's related to Appendix A from Appendix B. In item 4, we talked about the City Bark disease, and we were keeping a watching brief. Is there an opportunity for us to be updated on that in a future meeting?
Okay, have an update now.
Yeah, certainly, Chair. Yeah, so we have, there are kind of two parts to this. So the first part is actually cracking on and getting the work done on the health and safety work that the committee have requested. We have submitted the necessary tree applications to the District Council, and they're going through their normal processes. As part of that, we've been answering some queries from local councillors, but also local residents as well. So hopefully once approved, we will then get the work carried out. That work should get carried out before Christmas. The other side of it is the community engagement. So we have written out to all residents around the Pimlico cottages and indeed around the on West Common around Redbourne Lane South, advising them of the work that we're going to be carrying out, advising them of what the findings were from the condition survey, particularly related to Sooty Bark. In the case of the Pimlico cottages, we've offered to meet residents just to explain what that means in terms of the public, the town council trees. In the case of the West Common residents who own strips of the land that might be implicated, we have offered and will be carrying out a visit with a consultant where we'll be inviting those residents along to hear firsthand what they can do about the issue should they wish to. So there's one or two residents that have expressed an interest in that, so that should be happening before Christmas.
Great. Good. Okay. Any other comments? So are we happy to note and approve Appendix A? Lovely, thank you. And approve the removal of those resolutions marked complete in Appendix B. Brilliant, thank you very much. So the next one is Farmers Market, and in this one we're asked to approve that the previous plan to expand the Farmers Market into another road is paused for the time being. So within the body of the report it says that the anticipated waiting list has diminished somewhat.
That's correct, Chair, yeah. So this committee and council previously approved to carry out an expansion which had kind of two roles, mainly to increase the footfall and to refresh the farmers market. And at the time we wished to do that because, partly because we had a really strong waiting list. That waiting list has gone down, but also we've had some issues in securing some of the permissions from road closures, for example, from highways that are not insurmountable, so we could get over them, but actually there's been significant barriers put in place. So as those delays have occurred, that's happened in parallel with the waiting list going down, which now it appears we could push on and try to expand, but actually we haven't necessarily got people to come in to fill it, and there are some upfront costs. So that's the reason for pausing that for the time being.
Which sort of feeds into the second point you wanted to point 1 and point 2. Which is that we are going to be delivering additional events if this committee approves them, in order to revise the farmers market a little bit.
Yeah, that's correct, Chair, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, does anybody have any comments on this?
Just
Councillor
quick
Ellis.
2.1.1. Do we know why the waiting list has gone down? Is it just general trading conditions? I mean, at one time the farmers market was very popular, wasn't it? And lots of people were coming. Do we have any sort of feel for?
So I think, Chair, the take-up of the farmers market is still strong, so we haven't been hit by an impact on the actual traders that come along each time. We always have some dropouts. I think we've lost confidence in the strength of the waiting list. So, the waiting list in terms of numbers is still fairly high, but our confidence in those traders being people that would sign up for 10 markets a year is less confident now than perhaps we were before. So I think that kind of confidence factor is what's led us to think actually the waiting list numbers-wise is okay, but actually in terms of there's probably people that might come on for 2 or 3 a year rather than the solid that we can rely on to be there all the time, which we would need to kind of secure the sort of numbers.
Thank you. Because we were thinking of expanding into between two banks.
Thompson's Close, weren't we?
And Thompson's Close at one point, and also between Lloyds and Berkeley. So, yeah.
In 3.8 it mentions about a food and drink festival. I was just curious whether that was on the space of the farmers market or whether you were thinking of possibly do it somewhere else.
So the idea behind the additional initiatives is in line with our kind of wider events programme. So we try to spread things across the high street, and we do that for a number of reasons. One, because it's really practical, it's less of a headache from a management point of view to have people spread across, but also it helps with high street footfall as well. So we try to get people across the town and hopefully impacting positively on our business, particularly independents. So what we would see, this would be across the kind of the town greens. So we'd look to utilise Church Green, Bowers Parade and all that area, so it'll be spread across in the same way that you'll see on Sunday on a much smaller scale, but with the Christmas Carnival we try to utilise the whole town to spread people about.
Great.
Yeah, I think the initiatives look great. Can I just ask if and how they're going to be published, so that if you're someone who's particularly interested in history walks, or you're from the local society history walk, history, is that how that's going to get out, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so off the back of this, Chair, if approved, then we would, as we would normally do, is develop a kind of a communications campaign around all of this. So we'd be targeting the people that we want to work with in the first place to run the events, but also the types of audience that we want to get along to it. So that campaign would be very specific, and the strategy would be very specific about how we're going to engage those different people. Lots of them, there's two types of projects and initiatives really. So every quarter there is there's an event that we are directly leading, and it will take a lot of our resources. So the street food, the street festival, the food and drink festival, and we try to supplement them with kind of partner projects. So we've got lots of relationships with those people already, and they're people that have expressed an interest in doing stuff. So there'd be a kind of comms campaign off the back of this to make sure that we've got people who are onto it.
It's just a question. The plan to revamp or improve, or whatever the right word is, the farmers market, is that something we're discussing now, or is that something we're discussing in the future, or, yeah, basically?
Well, basically, the ideas of what we're going to put on over the year, that's our key way of sort of refreshing it a bit.
Okay.
Linking in with the year of culture, St Albans.
Okay. Can I put forward an idea now, or is it too late?
Oh, I don't know.
Only a very small
Yeah,
idea.
Chair, ideas welcome, yeah. So.
Well, I was just thinking, having young kids, that if we walk through the farmers market, there's not that much for them to do. But if they had like a couple of little fairground rides, then a bit like there is on the Christmas one, then that sort of would be a little activity, because the adults would get to walk through the farmers market and the kids would be happy. So it's just an idea.
Oh.
If I may, Chair, could I ask how we decided which events to do when? Because looking at the monthly themes, I'm struggling to see a link between, for example, skills development and volunteering and history walks. Were they planned to be linked together, or is this just guidelines and then we put specific events in for certain reasons?
Yeah, so Chair, just to perhaps comment on Councillor Cousins' point to start with, I think the kind of the principle behind what you're talking about is exactly what we're trying to do here. So the farmers market has always been about a kind of a shopping experience rather than a social experience, and it's always been kind of kept that way. I think what we're saying now is because of the footfall issues and some of the struggles in the high street, we need to do more of that social stuff and the community stuff to get people there in the first place, in the hope that that will then impact on the farmers market and the high street and businesses itself. So I think we'll pretty much be doing what you suggest there. So hopefully there'll be some good activities for families and for lots of different people. To flag up, Councillor Crowley, your good question. So the monthly themes that are set out in the Hertfordshire Year of Culture is what they're is how they're framing this year, essentially. So they are hoping to have different emphasis across different months, and the Creative Hertfordshire, who are behind this, are going to run activities linked to those different themes. Without being too critical of them, some of them are a bit kind of left field, some of them you look at and you think, well, what does that really mean? So what we're trying to do is we're trying to stick with the principles of the Year of Culture, and throughout the year we'll be doing something across all these different themes. But we aren't necessarily in January going to be doing whatever their January theme is, because the danger is if we try to do it that way, we fit something into this county campaign that doesn't really work for Harpenden. So hopefully we'll cover all of these off. Sometimes we'll cover them all off in 1 month, I'm sure. But actually it isn't. We aren't looking at month to month. It is guidance, really, what they're trying to achieve.
I was a bit curious about the stage budgets, 500 pounds. Does that sound like a lot to do? But I was wondering where we're going to put it.
It's a very good question, Chair, in terms of where we're going to put it. So I think it's fair to say that on a lot of these stuff there's further scoping to do. So if we had Harriet here, the events officer, she would probably give you a fantastic answer of exactly where it's going to be. And so whilst there are some details behind this, we've really been kind of waiting for sign-off in order for us to look at the details. So what essentially will happen is as and when those are developed, we would, through the appropriate channel, make sure councils are all aware of that. That particular example in June is quite a small event where we're just going to provide a small stage as a kind of an opportunity for local performers to come along and have some live music going on.
As long as I'm not saying that.
Can't drive people to lose.
We'll minute that, will okay?
That was a yes.
Okay, any other comments? No? Yes?
I just say I think the Halloween trail is a really good idea. That's the only way really my kids will walk, if there is like a little incentive, and then they're really into it. And Isabel, who's a completed finisher, will want to finish the whole trail. And you could do the same thing with their Easter as well, like an Easter trail. Any sort of trail, I think, is a good idea.
All right, thank you. So, If there are no other comments, should we take 2.1.1 and 2.1.2 together? So those in favour? Are we happy? No, we're not.
Can I just add something, Chair? Having approved 2.1.2, I have noticed that there should be a further recommendation in there, ideally, and that is that having approved 2.1.2, the committee, if you look at 4.2, the committee is also asked to approve the release of earmark reserve to fund that. So there should have been the additional recommendation in there. So
Gotcha.
if having approved 2.1.2, we'd also ask if you could approve the release of earmark reserve to fund that programme.
So the expected costs are 14.3k. Are we happy to approve that? Yeah, okay, thank you very much. So the next one is open spaces management plans. And the committee's asked to approve management plans for Porter's Hill Park and Westfield Recreation Ground. So that's appendices A and B. Did you want to say anything?
Yes, thank you, Chair. The situation, as you're aware, is that for our big spaces, such as the Common, Batford Springs Nature Reserve and Lydecker Park, we have significant comprehensive management plans in place. We've now reached the point where we think it is important that we have smaller management plans in place for our other green spaces too, so we actually have publicised what the action plan is to improve those spaces, and in particular, as you can see in these, there is ability to increase regard for biodiversity and wildlife by having these plans in place.
Yeah, which is a positive thing. Under 4.1, financial implications. I was just thinking, if you are going to plant that line of trees, Porter's Hill Park, that must surely... Can we still cover that with the existing budget, or would that be a separate item?
So, Chair, that will come forward in another report to Council in the early new year, again linking to the business plan. So we have got a wider tree planting programme that is currently being drafted for lots of our open spaces and lots of our ground that will come to Council, I think it is, in the end of January.
Right.
So the financial implications of any tree planting, for example, at Porter's Hill, will be dealt with through that report.
Right.
The draft budget that you'll have a look at later on, you'll see in there is a new additional budget line of £5,000 for tree planting.
Right.
That will be come out through general budget through this report in the new year.
Okay.
Looking at the wider programme.
And just sort of a bit left field, but how many trees can you plant for £5,000? Can you got a rough idea?
So right now, no. So what we will have. So it depends on the size, on the species, how mature we're going to plant them. So the mapping that we're doing at the moment will set out numbers. So at the moment I can't tell you how many, but it will be in the thousands that we can plant. It will set out the species and it will set out a time frame for planting as well. So 5,000, you can get quite a significant amount of trees. So if you were planting, a series of trees along that area, we think you could probably get around 500 trees along there.
Right.
Given the space, they would be quite smaller trees to start with. So you'd be the cost of them would be low. So it depends on the species and numbers really.
Yeah.
But that will all be set out in this tree planter report that comes forward early next year.
Okay. So we'll see that.
And Chair, actually, probably it's worth also saying is that there are significant grant opportunities out there as well. So whilst we have a budget of £5,000, we are going to be applying for external grants. There is lots of, as you'll be aware, there's lots of interest in this at the moment.
Yeah.
And so there's other opportunities for us to draw down on.
Good. So is everyone familiar with Porter's Hill Park?
I used to play the football.
Oh, right, okay. Does anybody have any comment about either Porter's Hill first, or should we go straight to Westfield? The only thing I wanted to say about Westfield is, historically it has had an issue with antisocial behaviour. So I just wanted to make sure that any of our plans, they look perfectly straightforward, but that does take into account that we do have to sort of plan out as much as possible any opportunities for antisocial behaviour. So if that's taken on board, that'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, I could just add one thing on that, Chair, if it's useful. So, on the map here, on my very technical drawing with my A, B, C and Ds, and E in this case. So if, for example, you see, there it is, E here.
Yeah.
So this is some removal of some trees or some taking back of some tree lines on one of the entrances in,
Yeah.
which actually opens up the view into the area, which is one of the things that when you tend to have antisocial behaviour problems, if there are enclosed spaces where people can't see in,
Yeah.
then that encourages people. So that entrance on E will be opening it out slightly, taking away some of the trees there. The right at the top, the north, as you look at it there, that's fairly open already. And the right-hand side entrance, if you can picture the new housing development as and when that comes in, that also will be opened up. The fact that we're going to have housing development there, as we've seen elsewhere in lots of areas, that in itself having additional visibility of properties that get over the park does also help with antisocial behaviour.
That's one of the factors we designed in. The row of the 3 beds overlooks deliberately the recreation area. So we're hoping that will get rid of the antisocial behaviour.
Good. Can I just ask what an easy noodle is? Easy or busy noodle?
Easy Google.
Easy noodle.
So, Chair, this is my page from Google. So Google now promote business or have businesses plugged on there. So whoever is, well, in fact I know who that chap is. He's obviously linked to Easy Noodle. So if you need a takeaway in that area, maybe that's the place to go.
Right. I didn't know that. Any other comments?
I've just got a couple. I'd say the first thing is the sort of basketball court at the top. Is it B on there, on the top right? I noticed you got plans to resurface the court, which is good because it's looking a bit tired. And then the actual structure as well. I wonder if that either just like a clean or a paint, because it's got quite so that looks quite tired. And then I was also going to mention the entrance from Willoughby Road, which I was there on the weekend. It's quite steep, but it's quite muddy and steep. I don't know. I think this is something which is considered as part of the when the houses go in. But actually, I just wonder if there's some like temporary thing we can do over that's like put some stones down or some sort of path, which you can kind of just see like there, which is just very muddy. And then so if you're coming from this way, it doesn't really sort of make it easy to access the park.
It's quite vertical there.
Yeah, it's quite vertical and it's slippy and muddy and it's
So, Chair, on that particular example, I think if we weren't expecting the work to start on the housing development imminently, then I think we would look to do something. We are expecting work to start on the housing very soon in the new year, and what that will include one of the first things we have to do is sort out the access way in. So that will be opened up because it will be a key way in for some of their construction traffic. That in itself will probably help with the issue that we've got at the moment.
Thank you. Okay, no other comments, so are we happy to approve the management plan? Great, lovely, thank you very much. Next one is the Commons and Greens Organised Wildlife Activities Programme. So the first thing I'd like to say is that's a fantastic number of people who've been turning up. That's really impressive. The office is really plugged into something that people are very interested in, which is good. So in this one, we're just asked to note the report. So, unless anybody...
Chair, just on the point you were making there, I think it's worth noting that the events paragraph 3.3 are in addition to the numbers outlined above. It's just we haven't got the actual figures to put down there, but each of those other events in 3.3 have between 10 and 15 people on average, additional to the numbers above.
It's really good. Very good. And I see that you're going to include people living with dementia, which is a nice tie-in with the Hartland and Dementia Friendly Town. So that's really positive. So, are we all happy to note? Brilliant. Thank you very much. The next one is budgetary control. So, Carl, was there something you wanted to say?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to give an update and some further information on the section under 3.6, which looks at the adverse and the favourable variances. So you'll note from that, at the moment, within this report, that there is currently an adverse variance expected of around £5,000. I just wanted to flag that actually we're very much expecting that to not be the case, having re-looked at the figures and having looked at some new stuff that's come in very recently. So, for example, the concourse trading, we have just taken on a new trader.
Is that the sandwiches?
Yeah, the Toast Delicious, which yeah, so they've signed a new licence. So the forecast that we had for this budget wouldn't have included that. So that's probably worth about £1,000 within the period of what you're looking at here. And under the Commons and Greens management plan item, this is presenting an adverse variance of 6,300. Just to clarify on this, the reality on this is that budget line or that budget code has got three things set underneath it. One is the management plan for the Common, which is our kind of proactive budget for doing stuff. Two is the grounds maintenance contract element. And three is a kind of a variance budget, which, it's an external contractor budget to do certain work that we do every year. And within that one is the hay cut on the Common. So every year we carry out the hay cut. So the reason why we're presenting here an adverse variance on that overall budget is the hay cut this year was £6,000 more than it has been previously. And that is significantly cheaper than the normal contractor provided us a quote for, so we went with a new contractor. So that part of that budget is overspent, but actually the common management plan is underspent. So this forecast is basically forecasting that we would spend all the management plan. The reality is where we know we've overspent on one line of it, is that we would balance that off by being underspent on the other part of that budget code. So again, I would expect that to be zero.
Right.
So the reality is, I think, for this committee, is that you would probably be in a positive position of about £2,000.
Oh, okay. Going back to the farmers' market fees, so they're down quite a bit. So are we hoping that they're going to pick up?
So the farmers' market fees, Chair, are linked into the expansion. So when the expansion was approved, we built in the additional income into the budget.
Right.
So as that hasn't been delivered, that's impacting on that budget.
Okay, so it's not that
So that's the reason.
Okay, fine. Anybody else?
I was just wondering about the hay. I mean, going forward, are we going to budget £6,000 more, or was it a particularly, unusual crop of hay?
No, it wasn't particularly unusual. So essentially what happened, the contractor that we've used for many a year, it's our grounds maintenance contractor, so it's John O'Connor. It's something that we pay outside of the contract, so annually they give us a quote for it. It just so happened that this time the quote for it was far in excess of what they quoted previously. So quite rightly, as you would expect, we went to get alternative quotes, and the alternative quote was much lower than what they provided, but was higher than we paid previously. So that's the reason for that. We are now budgeting for that higher cost year on year.
What do we do with the hay when we've got it?
So the hay goes off to local farmers.
Okay.
Yeah, as part of the kind of the deal that we have.
Because we can't use much of it, can we? Because of the dog food. You have to be careful what you can do with it.
Yes,
Okay.
Chair, there is a contamination issue with it, so you can't just sell it as normal.
Okay, any other comments, or are we just asked to notice?
No.
Okay. Thank you very much. Next one is budget. So we're asked to review the draft budget for 2021, set out in Appendix A, and the net budget for this committee would be £581,950. Does anybody have any queries about what's contained in the report? seems to reasonably straightforward. Paul's obviously worked all this out very carefully. If there are no comments, are we happy to approve the draft budget? Yeah? So we can go straight to that. Lovely, thank you very much. Okay, I struggled with the next one because of the photocopying. So it's Lydico Park signage replacement. So we're asked to approve the design of the proposed new signage and also approve the release of earmarked reserves as set out in Plan 4.1. So that's what we've got at the moment. And we want to have... I mean, that is rather nice, I think. It's expensive, but rather...
Yes. Yeah, I think it's a huge improvement. I've walked past that and the sign on the Luton Road, that sign just feels a bit dated and it doesn't feel inviting. I always feel it's one of the most underused parks we've got. There's a lovely bit of green space in an area that there isn't much else, so I think it's a great idea.
So is that a new or an old?
That's the proposed.
Yeah, so that's the proposed wording of the new sign.
Just the wording?
Yeah.
We're not looking at fonts or anything?
No, not at all. So stylistically, it will be along this line.
Yes, see, I rather like that, but I don't like the other one very much. So that sign style would go by the car park and also on the 1081 opposite the petrol station.
Yes.
Yeah. Any comments?
My only comment would have been when you mentioned please keep dogs under control and out of the pond, I just wondered if it's worth putting in really small text underneath the reason why people don't just think you're being difficult, that it is to protect wildlife and the lining of the pond. I don't know.
No, that's a good suggestion. Definitely.
Yep.
Have we made a note? Lovely. Any other thoughtful comments? Yes.
Do we want any sort of uniformity across the town?
Ah.
I mean, I think the ones at Blackfoot Springs are quite smart. You know, from Marcus Lane. You know, the ones with slightly more modern style.
Yeah.
I just wondered if we were going to do different sign styles for different places, or whether we had a sort of a Harpenden Town Council theme across the town.
We haven't got anything like that one, have we? I rather like that one, as I might have said.
Yeah, I mean, Chair, it's not too dissimilar to what we have on the nature reserve now. So when we updated the signs probably 18 months ago now, thinking about it, we've moved to that kind of wooden looking sign. So it's kind of getting more consistent. So we haven't had exactly the same signs on all of our open spaces, but I think we've moved towards having similar principles. So you can see what we're moving away from does look very different to all of the the common signage and the Blackfoot Spring signage. So I think we're moving in that direction of having that wooden, natural looking signs with the separate planks down the bottom where they can recognise. Yeah, so that there is a very similar branding that's going on across them. The other thing to note, Chair, is that we do also have to be cautious where they are in slightly different locations, that they need to fit with that location as well, and also fit with kind of any restrictions around advertising and signage in different places. So,
I just want to echo that I think it's a good idea to have uniformity where we can, at least some uniformity, whether it's a font, of logo, of the type, and especially if we take over more parks, more, whatever, Rockhampton, I think we should have it branded so people know that it's Harpenden Town Council, just like if you go to, SADC car parks,
you know from the signage that they're all in the same little family of car parks.
That's a nice idea.
I like family
So,
car parks.
Chair, on that point, if the committee were minded to kind of agree with that, then what you could be doing tonight is saying, approving this design is also the sorts of design that you want us to bring forward in future signage. So by doing this tonight, you're almost creating that branding to go forward. And I say that because having approved the open spaces management plans on the other two sites, there is an element of signage in there. So again, we could have some consistency on that. And when we have future signage projects, so when we renew Batford Springs down the line, we can look at that. And also the Common does need to look at its signage as well. So you could also tweak your recommendation or have a slightly different resolution on this to say that you also wish to see this as the future branding around around signage in our open spaces.
Would we like to take Councillor Scriven's suggestion as a recommendation or just note it in the minutes?
We're happy to make that, just to make that change, if you're all happy to do that without any kind of resolutions too. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I just ask something else? Are the opening times actually relevant? Is it gated and locked at, like, is it closed at a point? Yes.
Yes.
It's not been there.
Somebody got stuck there.
Okay. I just wondered if it was one of those. Yeah.
Can I just ask, Chair, if we're setting these out as a sort of principle for how we want to design signage for parks in future, would it be possible for the next version of this meeting to get a sort of a cost implication on how much it would cost to do all of our parks with that, just in terms of the fact that obviously the signage is not cheap that we're looking at, and if we're proposing that for multiple sites, I would think that we're committing to sort of quite a hefty budget out there.
I would think it's more rolling than signs.
Once it comes to the end of its life, kind of thing. Once the sign comes to its end of it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
There's no point changing good signage because it's different to this. Yeah. So we'd only change it once, the signage loses its.
I mean, it's interesting how expensive it is, but it does look very nice.
I just wondered about because obviously this isn't the exact size, it's a different council or whatever. We still have the Harpenden Town Council logo in colour. I mean, like if it's a wooden sign, is it more etched in all the same colour, or can we put a coloured coat of arms still on it? Yeah, perfect. Yeah, okay.
So it would be like that.
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
Which is nice. Yes.
Yeah. Can I ask just about the fact if it's wooden, will it need like more upkeep? Would it need to be like varnished or lacquered every couple of years or something?
Yeah, so Chair, so essentially whenever we put any new kind of signage or street furniture in, it goes into our maintenance programme to ensure that it's kept looking good for as long as possible. Part of the advantage of having these kind of signs is actually they are quite longer lasting, particularly if you have a good management plan around them.
Okay, so the second part of it is to approve the release of the earmarked reserves. 4.1, so 2717. Are we happy to sanction that? Brilliant. Thank you very much. So now we're on to the review of funfair charges. I'm sort of jumping ahead a bit here, but only because I drove past yesterday the Common and noticed there's still quite a bit of damage. Yeah, where the circus came in. So we do have a policy for some large operators. So they give us a deposit to reinstate the land. Should we not widen that to everybody who brings on heavy traffic?
Yeah, so Chair, essentially that should be applying to any heavy traffic on there, so there is a reinstatement fee. The reason why I kind of distinguished this kind of, it's probably the wrong wording there. So what I'm trying to say is that actually within our events protocol, where other third-party organisations hire our land, depending on what they do, we will also take reinstatement fees, but of a lower level.
Yeah.
And for some of them we don't. But for the large vehicles where for the large events where we know there's going to be heavy vehicles on there, we should be taking that reinstatement charge across the board. And I am checking that with our events officer just to make sure that is the case for all of the different operators, to ensure that that certainly should be how it's operating.
And because there's so much damage, would you not use any sort of boarding or covering as they drew on and off?
Yep, so we have track mats, we use track mats, so it's just, unfortunately in this case there's no fault to be lying on the surface at all, so it's just the weather at a particular time was just a bad series of events. If you take us back to last year, in May we had exactly the same problem, so 5 months different and yet we had the same outcome. So we do utilise track mats. It kind of looks pretty bad, but actually we've seen it worse. So the recovery, if it's worth just sharing with committee, so we have withheld the £1,000 reinstatement check. We're probably expecting to hold about half of that in total. What we would normally do is we would roll the land, we would verti-drain it, and then we would do a third kind of rolling, or there's a technical term for it, that's our general approach. We have to do that, we can only do that once it dries out.
Yes.
So the reason why you probably haven't seen much action over there so far is because it's not dry enough to do it. So as soon as that's, last time it took us about 3 months to be able to do that.
Right.
But it does recover though.
Yes, okay. Right, so on this one we're asked to agree that the charges are increased with the figure of 2%. So 4.2, you can see the increases are actually pretty small. Does anybody have any strong feelings either way? Yes.
I just wondered why, for example, the second one is 644, 4 operating days, 640. The difference is basically why is one a fair amount cheaper than the other? Is it just historic?
I don't know.
Yeah,
it all seems quite cheap to me actually. So.
It's very reasonable.
Yeah. Reasonable.
So it's a mix between the size of the operation and the number of the types of units that they've got on there is one key element of it. The number of days that they're operating is another key element, and the third one with fun fairs in particular, which makes it quite a minefield, Chair, is that there are all sorts of showman guild rights associated with fun fairs. So that means that essentially once there's a historic precedent of showmen utilising your land for certain fees and certain prices, it's very difficult for you to significantly change that in a way that would make it unviable for them, or indeed try to get them to not utilise the ground itself. So my reflection, Chair, is that if there were less rights and less charters, then we, as officers, we would probably be recommending a reduction in the number of fun fairs in a way to protect the common a bit more. But actually, we don't have much opportunity to do so. We have to legally carry out consultations, and we have to apply to the government to make any changes to showman rights and guilds. So it's incredibly complicated.
Okay, in which case we're just approving 2%. Everybody happy with 2%? Lovely, thank you very much. So, Phil, was there anything that you wanted to say about the asbestos management plan?
Chair, I think that it's just important that we ensure that the Town Council has got an effective asbestos management plan in place, not only to comply with the law, but to ensure the safety of everybody. So I don't think there's anything that I need to add onto what's actually written in there, but just to seek the committee's approval.
Fine. So everyone must have read Appendix A. Did anybody have any comments or questions about it? It looks very thorough to me, so I'd be happy to approve. All in favour? Lovely, thank you very much. And the next one is a request for a memorial bench plaque for Ian Fulton. So I don't know how many people here knew him. I certainly knew him. Did you know him?
No, I saw the news about his death, but I didn't know him.
So he was quite a remarkable chap, and I think certainly deserving of a plaque, given everything he's done
Yeah.
for us, and particularly scouting movement. I'd fully support a plaque for him. So we just asked to approve it. Does anyone have any thoughts or comments?
I think it's great.
Good idea, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're enthusiastic on that one. Double, sorry. Thank you very much. Right, Barland car park resurfacing. So again, two things. Approve the proposal to use a more permeable surface than the macadam, and then approve the tender spec. So, is there anything you'd like to add to what's in the report?
I don't think there's really anything major to add to what's in the report, Chair. I think that it's just useful to note that actually we now know that there are better, more viable, more environmentally friendly services available out there than we thought at the time that we put the report to you about using tar macadam.
I think that's a very positive thing. I'm pleased to read about that. I don't have any comments. Does anybody else? Yes.
Sorry, I've got one question. You talk about widening it. Is that to create more parking space, or is that... I didn't quite understand the rationale.
We want to sort of create a sort of bigger bund around it, don't we? And then widen the spaces for the individual cars. So not more cars, but just slightly more room per car.
Yes, Chair, and to make it easier for people, drivers manoeuvring in there, it's sometimes quite tight with the cars on each side. So it's just about 3 metres, 3.5 metres widening to make it much easier for people to park to get in and out.
Okay.
So at the moment, if you reverse into the left-hand line of cars, if you reverse into it, then you get out your car at the back and you're on a bank, effectively, aren't you? Like a slope up and down.
Yes.
Are they going or are they staying?
Chair, the bank will be remaining, but if you look at that picture where the little cross is going up and down, that's the area which the car park will be extended into.
Okay, fine,
and there will be and the earth from that area will go into a bund on the right hand side, a bit like we've got on the left hand side, but it will make it easier overall for people to park and manoeuvre.
Fine. I just didn't want to lose the slopes because they sort of protect it a bit and make it a little greener, I suppose, than just a flat car park.
That's it. Looks less municipal, doesn't it?
It's good for safety, actually.
Yeah.
Really good for safety.
When we looked at this last time, we were going to improve the drainage, weren't we? There was a plan for, what was it, a downstream. Well, isn't the drain, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just trying to remember what happened last time. So, to the upper side, so in other words, further down the A1081 direction, wasn't there, we were going to put a drain in there or something?
We don't have a circle in there.
And then we thought it was the wrong way around. But presumably with this new material, we don't need to do that.
So Chair, there's two parts to Councillor Ellis's question, or two parts to my answer to Councillor Ellis's question. So, in terms of this particular site itself, the original plan, because we didn't feel like there was an appropriate permeable surface that was, rugged enough to take the volume of traffic, because it is a really busy little car park, in particular through kind of school pick up and drop off. We were going to tarmac it, but in doing so we were going to create some suds, so I'll move the arrow around, we're going to create some suds around the outside of it, and we were going to put in place a new soakaway, just where I'm indicating on here, that would be dug down and would soak away into the ponds, which are over here somewhere near the fire exit door. So that would help any surface runoff. So there is already a soakaway where the arrow is at the moment. So this the soakaway here is it's around here actually. It's quite a small rectangle that takes water down into a pipe into the pond. So originally we were going to do that.
But that is basically in the wrong place, isn't it? Because if you're going to have drainage from the car park, it would be draining this way, not going uphill.
That's correct, it's slightly in the wrong place, and it's probably not big enough because it comes to about here, I think. So essentially, if it doesn't rain in that spot, or if it drifts down on this bit here, we're in a bit of bother. I mean, the pipe itself that goes underground does have holes in it, and so it does pick up additional water. So under the new arrangements, if approved, we'll have a new permeable surface, so there's no need for additional soakaways. So the advantage of that is is that it should also deal with the current surface water issue there as well. The other part of the answer to Councillor Ellis's question is further up on the A1081, so it's not on this picture, but up on the left-hand side on the common, this committee, probably longer than a year ago now, approved a request from Highways to dig a new trench on the left-hand side of the common to help with some surface water further up. We've done it in a number of places that has really helped, so that the surface water comes down from the 1081 in that area. We found that on the right-hand side, further up, just past the roundabout, there was a culvert that was there that came down the road, went underneath the road and came onto the common. There was two issues with that. So the first issue was that it was actually blocked when it was coming on the road, so it was brilliant in taking it down, and then it kind of jammed, so the water came out over the top. And secondly, there was no proper place for it to disperse the other side, which is why this committee previously approved that additional trench. So the trench is still a project that's going to happen, but it's on Ringway's long list of programmes, and unfortunately it's secured the Secretary of State permission, but it's been delayed until Ringway decide that actually they've got the budget for it to do it at that particular time. So that should help with that whole surface water issue around the whole area.
And some of you may recall that the roundabout at the Walker's Road, Redbum, heavy rain, continuously flooded. There's that big hole, isn't there, that we should drain some of it away. But the thing is, on the south side, we still get some which runs down basically into the town, doesn't it?
It's really good when we do get that trench.
Yes.
Presumably the durability of this more permeable surface isn't compromised in any way, no?
No. So the surface and the spec of it is something that will more than easily withstand the sorts of traffic that we've got on it. Originally when we looked at this and brought this to committee, we weren't convinced that there was the right sort of permeable surface there. Since then, we've kind of further researched and some things that's been flagged to us, and having visited elsewhere that had this sort of surface, and we said, well, if they've got a surface that copes with it, Whipsnade Zoo is a great example actually. So if any of you that park on the grass in Whipsnade Zoo at all, so you'll know that that's got a permeable surface. You don't often see it because the grass is covering it. So the type of surface that we're looking to replace is that type of surface there, that if you imagine the traffic that they take. The only difference is this will be gravel filled rather than grass filled. So that's the benefit, because the grass on this one here particularly has taken a battering. So by filling it with gravel, it'll make it even more stable.
Any other comments? No? Okay, so we go to 2.1.1 and 2.1.2. That's to approve the proposal and then approve the tender spec. Are we all happy to do that? Thank you very much. We're nearly there. Okay, so we go into exempt business.